watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station.
This is a ZNS News Update to the hour. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley. We're still awaiting word from Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, on his selection for new health minister to replace Dr. Dwayne Sands. The Prime Minister accepted Dr. Sands' resignation in a statement issued last night. It all follows a controversial flight into the country amidst COVID-19 orders that barred inbound passenger travel. A teenager was shot to death in Fox Hill today. The shooting took place at Ramming Street. So far, no arrests as police continue their probe. And the Bahamas confirms another COVID-19 case. The national count now stands at 84. The patient is a 60-year-old male of New Providence who is said to be in isolation at home. This has been your ZNS News Update. I'm Keishla Adderley. Good afternoon.
The Ministry of Health wishes to advise members of the public that prevention is key during this flu season. Practicing good cough hygiene can make the difference between you and your loved ones getting the flu or spreading the influenza virus. Good cough hygiene habits include covering your mouth and nose with a tissue when coughing or sneezing, and proper disposal of the tissue in a trash bin. Coughing or sneezing into your upper sleeve near your inner elbow and not your hands when a tissue is not available. Avoiding the use of handkerchiefs and towels as they hold germs, becoming a nest for the virus. And frequently washing your hands with soap and water, which is listed as one of the most important steps you can take to avoid getting sick and passing the virus on to others. If you have any questions about how to practice good cough hygiene to avoid catching or spreading the flu, contact your nearest community clinic or the Health Education Division at the Ministry of Health. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health in partnership with the Public Hospitals Authority.
Let's stay COVID-free. Remember the 3 S's: sanitize, social distance, and stay inside.
You're watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station.
Welcome to this special show, COVID-19 Pandemic, coming to you from our studio in Freeport, Grand Bahama. Well, the fight continues against the global pandemic, COVID-19. Here in the Bahamas, health officials believe the country is making progress as the measures put in place to stem the outbreak appears to be working. The total number of cases stands now at 84, 7 in Grand Bahama, 1 in Cat Key, 8 in Bimini, and the remaining 68 in Nassau. But health officials are adamant that this is not the time to disregard the health protocols that have delivered some success in the fight against this deadly virus. Well, there is a major change taking place in the health ministry and this COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister is expected to appoint a new Minister of Health today following the resignation of Dr. Dwayne Sands, who found himself at the center of a big controversy. It all stemmed from his decision surrounding the delivery of COVID-19 tests and the landing of permanent residents under the emergency orders. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, during a national address on Sunday, called the move a breach of protocol. Late yesterday, in a 3-sentence statement, the nation's leader confirmed that he had accepted Dr. Sands' resignation effective May 5th. He went on to thank Dr. Sands for his service to the Bahamas, including the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister closed out his statement, noting that a further statement will be made today, including who will serve as the new health minister. Now, the Prime Minister's decision is in keeping with a vow made upon taking office following the 2027 general election action. Dr. Minnis stressed that good governance demanded being responsible for one's actions and that accordingly he would hold ministers to the high standards of ethical conduct in the performance of their public duties. Well, in Dr. Sands' resignation letter to the Prime Minister, he noted that he accepts responsibility for breaching the protocol. He acknowledged that he acted outside of the scope of authority in this matter. Now, the minister says his actions were guided by his great desire to obtain the much-needed testing swabs, which are in short supply in the Bahamas and across the globe, which are key to the country's efforts to trace the spread of the coronavirus. He added that he acted in good faith, but nonetheless, he acknowledges that his actions have caused embarrassment, which he regrets. Sands says he believes that his continued presence in the cabinet may serve as a distraction from the country's COVID-19 efforts, and he also thanked the Prime Minister for the opportunity to serve the Bahamas. The resignation of the health minister amid the ongoing controversy came as a bit of a shock to many Grand Bahamians, as many residents are of the view that Dr. Sands has been an effective minister and leader in the ongoing battle against COVID-19. Our Talia Hall talks with the former MP and National Vice Chairman of the governing Free National Movement about this latest development.
The National Vice Chairman of the Free National Movement, David Thompson, says it is regrettable that the former Minister of Health, Dr. Dwayne Sands, was unable to work out a resolution with the Prime Minister on the recent issue.
Hopefully, Dr. Sands will continue to make a tremendous, meaningful contribution to healthcare in our nation of the Bahamas. However, when dealing with social media and dealing with public access to information, sometimes the result is unfavorable, where information and documents are leaked to social media, resulting in bad advice being given.
He says similar situations have been seen in other countries across the world,
where ministers of health have resigned and their resignation was not accepted by the Prime Minister and they were allowed to continue their work. Unfortunately, that requires that the health minister accept his role going forward, and as a result of not accepting it, understand what the consequences are.
But he says he believes that the government will continue to do well during this pandemic.
The professional team that was established and continues to work daily to protect our nation and our people's health, I'm sure will continue to do the greatest job possible that I have seen watching TV in other nations. I think the Bahamas is well ahead in making sure that our people are protected, secured, and that we go through this pandemic and come out of it as in a manner that will benefit all Bahamians.
And as for Dr. Sands, he says Bahamians should offer their support for his continued work in healthcare.
And we should express our gratitude to him and to the many in the healthcare profession who continue to keep our Bahamas safe and protect all of us as needed.
It's Talia Hall, ZNS Network News.
And more reaction now to Dr. Sands' resignation from the cabinet. Member of Parliament for Pine Ridge, Frederick McAlpine, also weighing in. Now, you may remember back in 2018, McAlpine was relieved of his duties as chairman of the Hotel Corporation. The changes came one day after he, along with 3 other members of Parliament, voted against the increase in value-added tax. Well, we reached out to the Pine Ridge MP this morning, and here's what he had to say.
That while the Bahamian people are stuck between a rock and a hard place economically in COVID-19, that we had to come to this. I really thought we were all stronger together. I'm very disappointed that it had come to this, but it would have been in the best interest of the Bahamian people if everybody had worked together through this pandemic. This is a very serious time, And I really am sorry that I'm not sure this is a time for resignations. I'm not sure this is a time for infighting. I think this is a time when we should have been focusing specifically on the Bahamian people, their safety, and trying to get through this global dilemma.
Now, McAlpine says the people whom he represents are of the view that now was not the time to entertain the resignation of the country's health minister.
I'm not getting into the pros of whether he should have resigned or should not have resigned. I think at this time the focus should be on the safety of the Bahamian people and how we can better preserve the lives of the Bahamian people. And I don't think that this, at this juncture, is helping anybody as it relates to the advancement and the protection of the Bahamian people.
Well, the National Vice Chairman of the governing Free National Movement, David Thompson, joining us live now to talk about the resignation of the health minister. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and thank you all of Grand Bahama and the Bahamas as we continue to stay safe and stay healthy.
Well, Dr. Sands was viewed as an effective leader, and this is a conversation taking place throughout the entire country, his resignation. Does his resignation impact the fight against COVID-19 at all?
I believe that whenever we have any issues, concerns, or matters that are of a national nature, we should put forward the best team possible in order to help our people through whatever those issues are. Therefore, it would be my view that Dr. Sands was of great support as the leader of that team as Minister of Health as we go through this worldwide pandemic. He is a man who is brilliant in his field as a doctor. He is a person who is committed and dedicated to working very hard day and night. He is the kind of doctor who reaches out to his patients and who not only is competent, but effective in achieving positive results. So in that sense, Dr. Sands would be missed from the team. But as I look at the team, it is clear to me that it is comprised of established, competent, professional individuals and workers who will be able to continue and be able to do the job. I am hopeful that whatever capacity he could assist in, that Dr. Sands would continue to lend his support, because he is that kind of individual who would always seek to help.
Yeah, a lot of reaction came in last night as that resignation was tendered. There was a moment of an hour or two before we found out whether or not the Prime Minister was going to accept or reject this resignation. Within that time frame, though, there were a lot of persons calling on the Prime Minister to reject this resignation and some calling on him to accept it. So there's a huge split in the country as to whether or not what should have happened.
Well, all I can address is that whenever you have the leader of the country speaking with one of his key ministers, they obviously would communicate between them as to how best to deal with whatever issues have arisen. And I would have expected that whatever they could have achieved in the way of a positive result should have been worked out by them for the benefit of all the Bahamian people. I am therefore of the view, as I look at what has occurred, that both men made the greatest possible effort to try and not come to this regrettable conclusion. I therefore would call on all Bahamians from all parties, and particularly all FNMs, to rally around and support both our Prime Minister in the decision that he had to make, and Dr. Sands in the circumstances he found himself in, which call for him to do what under our Westminster system is described as the honorable thing. I would have very much have hoped that, as in other countries like the United Kingdom where situations similar to this arose, that the Prime Minister would have considered not accepting the resignation, but that would very much have depended on the Minister being prepared, if the resignation was not accepted, to continue in whatever role the Prime Minister and he would have been able to agree. It is unfortunate, it is regrettable, it is sad that that has not happened, did not occur, but I know that both men would have made every effort to try and avoid where we are today. But because we are here today with a resignation that has been accepted, we have no recourse than to move forward and to do our very best for the Bahamian people, remaining united as we work together through this pandemic.
One thing is clear, though, and across party lines, both PLP and FNM, one person described it who, on social media, she said she is a PLP supporter, but she felt as though there was a death in her family because she had come to love and revere the person who Dr. Sands have emerged to be. And it seemed as if this is going to be a huge miss for everyone across party lines. What do you say about that?
I would say that all actions have consequences, and I have great faith in both men, in their professionalism, in their capacities to work through issues, in their desire, and this is unquestionable, that the both of them have to do the very best for the people of the Bahamas that each of them could do. And so it is, again, not a good result that they have been unable to work this out in a better way, arriving at a better solution where there might not have been so much division as it relates to the circumstances and the result. I think that we have to face the fact that there is all of those mixed reactions, and we have to work through all of them, listen to all of them, not ignore any of them, as we continue in a consultative way to chart the best way forward, not only in the COVID pandemic, but also for the country at large, and as well for all Bahamians who needs our government to continue to do the great job that they have been doing so far.
Well, how does this affect the Free National Movement? On the OPM's page, once it came out that the resignation was accepted by the Prime Minister, there were some party supporters, FNM party supporters, who said that they do not know if they can support the party any longer because of this decision. Do you think this will have a grave effect on the Free National Movement?
I do not believe that this will have a grave effect on the Free National Movement as a political party. I believe that what all of us need to do, including myself here today, is to encourage all FNMs to fully support our Prime Minister in his decision and our former Minister of Health in his decision. These men made decisions that they thought were in their best interest. I am satisfied myself that every effort would have been made by these two very competent, capable doctors to do all that they could to avoid this result. So I would say to the FNM as a party, we are blessed that on the 10th of May, which is just a few days away, that we will be celebrating the 3rd year and going into the 4th year of the Minnis administration. We have proven as a party that we could put together an excellent team to work together for the good of all in our Bahamas. But as with everything in life, there comes sometimes issues and circumstances that would cause decisions to be made that might not be satisfactory and pleasing to every single person. But we have to look at what is best for these two men, what is best for our country, and pray to God that He will guide us through what is best for our party and our nation. And so I am calling on the religious leaders, on all the praying people out there, on all F&Ms who are very good Christians, to please understand that here is where we are. Neither of these men would have chosen to be where we are today. Neither of these men are at fault as to where we are today. Both of these men would have made a decision they thought was in the best interest of the people of the Bahamas. And when you look at those statements that have been put out, you would see where there was this dilemma and this struggle to ensure that, on the one hand, a Minister of Health wanted to observe and do the honorable thing. On the other hand, a Prime Minister wanted in some way to avoid having to accept, but ended up having to accept what was tendered. And we are sad that, like I say, in a place like New Zealand or the United Kingdom, where the minister tendered his resignation, the Prime Minister determined in the best interest not to accept it, that could not have been the case here. For that to be the case, both men would have been required to decide that that was the best outcome. Unfortunately, that was not so. But please, everyone, let us respect these two men, respect their work, and as a party, respect our leader, and as a country, respect our government, and as we continue to move forward as a nation, hold high our Prime Minister, not only in prayer, but in our everyday support and the work that we have to do.
Comments coming in to the Facebook page. Many persons are saying at this point, especially given the fact that we're in the midst of a pandemic, at this point we should know by now who is the next health minister. Who, if you are able to say, would you like to see serve in that capacity other than the Prime Minister?
I could not say, because unlike some people who believe they know a lot, I do not know too much about that. What I do know is that temporarily, the best fit for me would have been another doctor who was familiar with the situation, who would have been there all along, and who would have been a part of the process of guiding the health team. And so temporarily, it would have only, for me, have been Dr. Hubert Minnis. However, I'm sure that he would be evaluating all Bahamians and looking at who are the best possible fits, so that we, as we move forward, we could determine who that individual is and what kind of support that individual could bring to the process. But I say that bearing in mind that I'm still hopeful that Dr. Sands will still be with us doing the best he can, because he's the kind of guy. I'll just give you a little story of him. One day I said to him, "Doc, you look like you haven't been sleeping. How you doing?" And he said to me, "David," he said, "these people killing one another all over, damaging, wounding, and every night I have to be at that hospital all night dealing with this crime situation." And I'm like, "Boy, Doc, that's very commendable of you, because you can't be paid for that kind of dedication or work. And most people wouldn't think that you would go out of your way every night into the wee hours of the morning trying to save lives." But that's the kind of guy he is. So I am not looking at us losing Dr. Sands. I'm looking at me calling out to Dr. Sands, as have others, to say, "Chief, the healthcare system in the Bahamas still needs you. You find your niche, and you help the team to do whatever can be done to cause us to be a better nation and to be healthy and safe. So I'm not abounding in it, and I'm saying to people, do not start treating Dr. Sands, the former Minister of Health, as if he is someone who don't deserve our support. He does. And he needs it now more than ever, having taken such a drastic decision. So let us please make sure that all of us reach out in our humanity to the crisis that arose, to the resolution that could not be achieved, and to the circumstances that they are today, and see how best we could move forward to the future together for the good of our Bahamas, and to get over this pandemic, and to get into reopening the country and reopening the economy, and putting people back to work so that we could continue to enjoy in our Bahamas a quality of life unmatched by any others in the Caribbean. So let's work together, let's stick together, and please let us embrace all of these people who are involved.
Rashard Morley on our Facebook page says the one bad thing out of many things is he was doing for this country, which many people, even myself, was incapable of doing, keeping us to date, sticking to his oath. And then he goes on to say some more things. Noriko Wilson says Dr. Sands isn't leaving the party. I'm sure he'll be there to consult with whomever is chosen. Malini Badma says, we are not perfect. All have come short and make mistakes. He admitted that he made a mistake. Forgiveness is what should have been given in this situation. I would like for Dr. Forbes to be in this new position. Several comments coming in there from our Facebook audience.
Those are very interesting, and all of those need to be encouraged, because we need all voices to be lifted and to be heard and to be respected, so that we could have the widest possible consultation as we go forward. So yes, I even see where there's some mention of who people would prefer. But at the end of the day, let us remember that we need to support one another, and we need to plan. And we are in a situation where today, we're trying to plan how best to move through this pandemic and to utilize all Bahamians in that endeavor. And I only say that to remind all Bahamians that there is a web page where the Prime Minister has invited everybody from throughout the Bahamas to make their contribution as to what is the way forward. What is your idea? What are the things you think should be on the table? And if this issue is one of them, bring that forward forcibly too as well to this new platform, because we have to chart the way for our nation. And when I say we, I'm talking about FNMs, PLPs, all Bahamians. And I'm hoping that we understand, if we do this, we'll get a better result than if people shy away, stop supporting, or be inclined not to participate.
My final question before I let you go. The opposition has called for a deeper investigation during a press conference today that involves the Minister of Aviation, Civil Aviation, or anyone else who may have had a role to play in this latest debacle. What do you say about that? Was Dr. Sands' resignation good enough, or there needs to be a formal investigation into this?
Let me indicate that, again, unlike most people, I will not venture to say what my opinion is when I don't have all of the facts, when I don't really have a grasp of all of the circumstances, issues, and the particulars that would have led to a decision by the health minister or by the prime minister. I respect the system sufficiently to allow it to work. And I believe that if we do that, it will work. And I do believe that any call for anything that would separate us, anything that would introduce partisanship, anything that would cause us not to continue to work together in support of one another and participate with one another in going through what we are facing in this country, is a waste of time. we need to focus, Bahamians. We need to see this is where we are and focus on where we're going. And if we have any idea of the best way forward, submit those for consideration of the system as established by the government of the Bahamas, the cabinet, the members of parliament and the senators, and all of the vast civil service. And I want to say this about the civil service. They have a tremendous reservoir of experience, knowledge, and capability. And that is what our government draws on and would continue to draw on. But I want to say how we appreciate them, because it ain't often I get the time or can be able to be in a place to say, you civil servants do a tremendous job in keeping our country strong and advising our leadership in government. And we thank you for it. The same as we thank all of those healthcare workers, the doctors, the nurses, the lady scrubbing the floor. We thank you for your invaluable effort.
Any final words before we wrap up today?
Final words, yes. As a country, we've been blessed with many capable women. But when we talk about women, the most capable of all women is the mother. Mother's Day is coming. Please, Bahamians, remember your mother. It's Mother's Day. Celebrate Mother's Day as best you could in these circumstances at this time with your mothers. Encourage fathers to do so. All men support women on Mother's Day. And I want to also say to the FNM, we congratulate you on your 3rd anniversary, which is forthcoming the 10th of May. And may God continue to guide all of us into the 4th year and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Stay with us. We talk national insurance when we come back. COVID-19 pandemic coming to you live from the studio of Freeport, Grand Bahama. Back in just a moment.
Since the time of the introduction of COVID-19 and the national lockdowns that we have been experiencing, I have had the opportunity to speak to many persons who are suffering from anxiety, who are suffering from panic and depression. And, you know, sometimes these lockdowns, they can be negative or positive depending on the way you approach it. And some people, to the negative part, have even come to thoughts of taking their own lives, which is something that you do not want to do. It does not make sense to take your life, because when you do that, you put others in grief. You bring more harm to others than you're intending not to. And whether you think you'll be putting yourself out of misery, but it is the wrong decision to make. To combat this, you need to take the approach that David took in Psalm 42, verse 5. When he was facing circumstances just like these negative emotions. And if you're going to overcome these negative emotions and come out better than you went into this COVID-19 experience, you would find that you have to do at least 4 things. 1, David says, hope in God. You have to hope in God that whatever it is you're trusting God to do, that he will do it. I know, I get it. You've trusted the Lord before, or you had hope that something was going in a positive manner, and it seems like every time you put your foot forward to make 1 step, you make 20 steps backwards. But I want to tell you, continue trusting, continue fighting God, and hope in God. God will bring you through. Secondly, find an opportunity to praise God. There's so many good things going on in your life. You have life. You have family. You may be having problems in your family, but at least you have family. So give God thanks for that. Thank God for the breeze. Thank God for the sun. Thank God for the Bahamas. You have an opportunity to be grateful for something. So you want to be grateful. Number 3, you want to remember that God is your helper. God promised that he will not leave us, nor he would forsake us. As a matter of fact, he says, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers them out of them all. Okay? And then the last thing is, talk to someone that cares, somebody that you know that will help you. Talk to your pastor, talk to a minister, talk to a brother or sister, talk to a friend that cares. And I promise you that if you apply these principles, you will come out better than you went into it. God bless you.
continues to monitor the coronavirus COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic wreaking havoc on lives and economies across the world. So what should residents be doing right now?
Pay attention to the guidelines and the advice that's being put out by healthcare professionals.
What is preparation like for you before seeing someone who is presenting?
This crisis began in China, and that's significant.
China had their first case. That's when we started to prepare because we knew it would be here soon.
Over 25 years ago, I started a food distribution company from the back trunk of my car, selling only 6 food items. Today, Jamaica Bahama Imports distributes over 100 food products throughout the country. Now this could only happen because of the loyalty and support of you, our loyal customers. And so, on behalf of all of us at Jamaica Bahama Imports, we wish to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bahamas. Welcome back. Well, the role of the National Insurance Board is critical in a time such as this. And as its motto goes, it works for you when you can't. Director of NIB, Nicola Virgil-Roll, joins us now to talk about the demand being placed on NIB at this time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Bahamas.
Good afternoon again. Let's talk about the demand you're being faced with at this time at NIB.
Yes, so it's an unprecedented demand. As a Social Security agency, we are meant to handle cyclical flows of unemployment applications. Of course, we've had a widespread shutdown of the economy, and as such, we've seen the numbers which are what we would normally see over a few years. And so NIB has had to transform itself in order to handle the workload and also to ensure that persons are paid as quickly as possible and as many people as paid as quickly as possible. So we quickly ramped up our energy in terms of transforming the operations away from non-core duties towards most people focusing on the registration and adjudication of claims, unemployment claims in particular, while of course taking care of our normal duties with respect to retirement, maternity, sickness benefit, things like that. But we've had to also use different modes and methods of dealing with claims. So we've had to switch more towards a digital platform. from the way we accept claims so that we can accept claims safely by using online processes to how we pay as well. So in addition to the direct deposits, which is new for unemployment for us, we've also been using for our government unemployment assistance program digital wallets through one of our partners. And so we've had to truly transform. To date, we have paid out in the unemployment benefit program, that's the normal NIB program. As of Thursday, we'd have paid up 20,672 people at a cost to us of $16.86 million. And we know we have more to go. And so we're working around the clock to really get to those others. We also administer the government's unemployment assistance program, which is geared towards self-employed persons. And to date, we have approved and paid over 5,000 of those persons at a cost of about $4.1 million. And so we as well continue to see applications, and although we know that they are slowing down at this point.
What are some of the challenges that you've been faced with at this time?
So, of course, as I mentioned, just transforming. So we were a very paper-based organization where applications came in hard copy, and you had all of the documents together. And so in transforming to having these sent in via email, we had to now find ways to match up the various documents. So you would have the B82, which is the application form coming in from a client, and then the B80 coming in from his or her employer. So we had to bring those two documents together in order to make a proper file for the person. We've had to also deal with, which has been a legacy problem for the National Insurance Board over the many years, with backlogs of postings of contribution data. And so in some cases, we have had to really focus on and bringing more people to that effort in terms of entering into the system contributions data for persons. And then lastly, and sadly, we've had to go and also ensure that employers have actually submitted the C10 information for their staff so that they would become eligible for the unemployment benefit.
I understand that NIB has been under a lot of pressure from Hurricane Dorian, and now you're dealing with this pandemic. But there have been a lot of complaints that it's taking too long for persons to receive their claims.
Yes, and again, it's a symptom of really the sheer numbers. And so in the matter of this time period, we have been able to process over 20,000 and of the UEB, and then we were added to that. We got a new program, the Unemployment Assistance Program, so we got in just over 5,000 of those. And we know that, literally our staff are not resting until we get to the remainder. And we know that we have more to go. So where we have been delayed in the process, what we're doing with that first check, we're trying to make up the dates. So if you are 4 weeks outstanding, you'll, instead of the 2 weeks, you get 4 weeks, and so on. And we have made today a payment, I think, of 6 weeks for someone, for a group of people who were outstanding for that period. So we're trying as best we can to bring you whole when you do receive your funds.
Lisa Smith, she's on our Facebook feed, and she asks, she says, I need to know if persons can still pick up their NIB cards, because most applications we have to fill out require the number. So that's something that is still ongoing, correct?
Well, the cards themselves are not being reissued. That's a very face-to-face personalized service. And so that was one of the first things that we suspended. What we do have, though, we have our registration email is still available. That's registration@nib-bahamas.com. And you can be emailed in the appropriate letter, which would provide your number and everything you need. Your number never changes. So if you have an old card, that is still available to use. And we have made the contact with the banking system and other persons who rely on our card so that they are aware. If there is ever any question as to the validity of a card, they can call us. We have a special arrangement there where they can call us and get information to validate information on the card. And so, we irrespective of your expiration date of the card, that is still a valid card because your NIB number never changes.
Tanya Nicole Sarah Stubbs asks, self-employed persons who are paying as self-employed, example, barbers, beauticians, are they being paid and why are they being asked for licenses? If you can answer that for us.
Yes, so under the National Insurance Act, when the unemployment benefit, and that was one of the last benefits to come into, and it was through an amendment a few years ago, it did not contemplate affording the unemployment benefit to self-employed persons. Under normal circumstances, not like a crisis like this, but under normal circumstances, it's very difficult for Social Security institutions to understand where a person is, a self-employed person is genuinely unemployed. And so in many schemes, such as these, self-employed persons are not covered. And so what the government did, recognizing this gap in coverage and this highly unusual circumstance, the government put in place a new program, and we've called it the Government Unemployment Assistance Program. It should also be noted that self-employed persons do not pay the 1% for the unemployment insurance. They paid a different rate, 8.8%, as opposed to the employed person who works for another, who would pay jointly between the employer and the employed person 9.8%. And so the government, noting this gap, put in place a new program to cover self-employed persons. And this is an assistance program. It's not something that's paid into. It's a genuine assistance funded by the government of the Bahamas to cover the self-employed persons during this extraordinary time. And so in order to show that, so we have rules for persons in the tourism sector. So we set up a program for and rules around, for example, straw vendors and hair braiders and jet ski operators. And then we have also, the government decided to extend it to all self-employed persons impacted by the shutdown. And for those, with the Ministry of Finance, we worked out the rules which required a business license as proof and evidence that you were, gainfully working as a self-employed person and owned a business. And so we do require a business license. It should be a recent one or recently expired one, but should be recent or valid in order for us to consider you for that program. And as I mentioned, we have already approved well over 5,000 people for that program.
Terry Martin says, I am a pensioner and it's been a long time since we were paid and we didn't get any other assistance that helps us during this pandemic. So what is the position with pensioners?
Pensioners, there's been no change. So what has happened is we paid our pensioners early in order to facilitate extra funds in their hands. So we paid March a little early and we paid April a little early. And so they have been paid for those months. And then we go into May now, which has also been prepared, and that's coming out around the 19th of May. And so the pensioners would have received their funds as normal. It just was paid a bit earlier. And so they would have seen that hit their accounts much earlier than perhaps they expected, but it has been paid.
And we have one more question for you. Teresa Haynes says, good afternoon. How can persons whose checks were printed receive their checks as a result of being stuck on another island or as a result of flights being suspended? Is anything being done in that regard?
Yes, we do utilize the mailboats and the whatever airlines are flying, if we get permission for that, to package our payments. And so we send them on to the islands that do not themselves print their own checks. And so that is available as well, and we have been doing that, getting that out there. And so our next major run will be for the pension payments in a few weeks.
And there is another question that came in. A family member has been waiting for their check for 6 weeks now. She was told by NIB that they were waiting for the checks to arrive on the mailboat. Why can't checks for Grand Bahama be processed in Grand Bahama to eliminate these kinds of waits?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so it all depends on where the processing occurs. It has to be understood that this is an unusual circumstance, and so normally Grand Bahama may process its own work, but because of the volume, some of these were done and processed in New Providence. Many were processed in the islands in which the persons live and can print, but some were processed in other islands, and so they are sorted through. I would encourage that person so that we can follow up on that to email me at director@nib-bahamas.com, and we can ensure that we find that and forward that on for release to you. But I think that highlights another issue as NIB strives to move away from checks. And that's something that we have in our strategic plan and the movement towards digital wallets, which do not require this physical up and down movement of physical paper in order to receive payments. And something we have piloted now with the government unemployment program. And we're looking to push further with that with the unemployment benefit program for NIB.
And we know that your staff has been working overtime and going over and beyond because we have experienced Hurricane Dorian, and so a lot of persons would have had to rely on NIB, and now you have this compounded issue of COVID-19 pandemic. How are you and your staff members coping at this time dealing with all of this?
Well, we've been, trying to keep staff morale up. I think NIB as an entity, as an organization, we understand our role. And so it's at our core and in our spirit to want to make sure we don't rest until the job is done. It is a heavy lift. It is a heavy lift for everybody involved. The staff, as I've said and before, at any point in time that I'm emailing, they are responding. And so we understand it's a heavy lift, but we have a lot to go through. We have a legacy system that is slower than we wish. And so we've had to institute a number of workarounds that are quite manual, but still faster to do that in order to process as many as we have. And we know that throughout the world, Social Security systems, unemployment agencies in larger economies, richer economies are struggling. And so we have really had to push to process as many as we have successfully processed.
How are the numbers in Grand Bahama and by extension in Abaco compared to the other islands during this time?
Yeah, I don't have them broken down, but we know that a number, and this is something we're exploring, a number of Grand Bahamians would have obviously experienced Dorian, and so would have benefited from the unemployment benefit there, and then also would have benefited from the extended unemployment benefit program. And so that was extended to 26 weeks. And so we have some people already still on that program. And so we're working through that as well. With other places, we know we still have some work to do.
How are you able to juggle these payments with the regular payment?
We have apportioned some of our staff to the work. The far majority are apportioned to the new work. But we have also some staff working on current work as well, because we realize that people continue to get sick. There's still maternity claims, there's still retirements, new retirements that need to come on stream. And so we have those as well being done.
Karen Hepburn says that there are those who are not computer literate and there are those who don't really know how to fill out information online. Are you finding this to be a challenge?
In the beginning, I think one of the proudest moments for me personally and for NIB is that, we were able to launch and really push for things to come into us digitally. In the beginning, we had a lot of questions. We don't see so much as now. So we're seeing this growth in really the population getting used to using, filling out things online and accepting information via email. And so we're seeing an improvement there, which I think is important and healthy for the country.
Natalie Knowles Ramsey says, good day. Why is the unemployment benefit of hotel workers based only on their base salary when NIB deductions come from their base and their tips?
Yeah, so that's not the case. So we look at your insurable wage, which for hospitality workers includes both sides of it. And so where we have that information, and we generally do, we come up and calculate your average insurable wage over a period of time, and that is what we're paying on.
Elizabeth Taylor says, thank you, NIB. You are doing a great job in this pandemic situation that we find ourselves in. Terry Martin says we need to keep all frontline workers and NIB staff members in prayer. They are under a lot of pressure, and I relay those sentiments. We do thank you, especially for working under this pressured environment. You are valued at this time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Marcia.
Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
Over 25 years ago, I started a food distribution company from the back trunk of my car, selling only 6 food items. Today, Jamaica Bahama Imports distributes over 100 food products throughout the country. Now this could only happen because of the loyalty and support of you, our loyal customers. And so, on behalf of all of us at Jamaica Bahama Imports, we wish to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bahamas.
The Ministry of Health is working to ensure the safety of the Bahamian people. Help us minimize the risk that coronavirus poses to citizens, residents, and visitors by following these 5 easy steps. Step 1. Wet your hands with clean water. Apply soap and lather for 20 seconds by rubbing them together. Include the top of your hands between your fingers and under your fingernails. Rinse your hands under clean water, then dry them with a paper towel or air dry them. Remember to wash your hands before and after eating, preparing a meal, changing a diaper, or caring for the sick, and always after using the bathroom, touching money, shaking hands, or taking out the trash. Step 2. Cough and sneeze in your elbow or upper sleeve, not in your hands, not in the air. Or you can cover your nose and mouth with a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Put your used tissue in the trash bin when you're finished. Remember to wash your hands with soap and clean water after you cough or sneeze. Also, remember never to spit on the ground, roads, or in open spaces. Step 3. Ensure that raw meat is properly handled and cooked thoroughly. Step 4. Avoid sharing drinking glasses, eating utensils like spoons and forks, or sharing personal items such as toothbrushes and towels. Germs can live on surfaces we touch, so wipe and disinfect surfaces where germs can live, and keep your surroundings clean. Step 5. Avoid close contact with anyone showing symptoms of respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing. Should you or anyone you know feel that you have been exposed to the coronavirus, contact the surveillance unit of the Ministry of Health immediately. To reach us, call 502-4776 502-4790 or 502-4737. We want Bahamians and those that live with and visit us to remain safe from the coronavirus. To do this, we need the help of each and every one of you to follow the simple steps we have shared. Let's stay safe, Bahamas.
The store is only letting so many persons in. Do you think that's going to become a challenge in a sense?
We have to do something. Us being a very small nation,
An unprecedented time. The fight to combat this latest pandemic continues. Extreme measures taken.
A curfew is imposed every day for 24 hours.
International travel and the country's borders now shut down. Local businesses closed and the country on a 24-hour lockdown. Police patrolling the streets and those in breach will be made to answer. The coronavirus, a global crisis now affecting the Bahamas.
Welcome back. For the needy on Grand Bahama, the COVID-19 health crisis comes at a time when many are still trying to cope with the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. Several organizations have been at work on this island, reaching out to those in need. Among them, the Reach Out organization led by activist Dudley Said. He joins us live now to talk about plans and the work to continue to assist persons in need on this island. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dudley.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's humble. It's a humble experience when you hear the needs of the people in Grand Bahama. They just suffer from Hurricane Matthew, and here comes COVID-19. It took me about a month just to fast and pray and ask the Lord, what direction to go in. The first thing coming is fear. Fear of the COVID-19 because you really didn't know the history on it. I was watching it on television from when it was in China, but just the fear on, I think, if you go outside, you might die, those kind of fear step in. But I said, Lord, I can't sit back. So I fasted and prayed for a month, and I told my wife, I said, hey, Katie, we gotta get up. We got to go out there and try to help the people in Grand Bahama. So after a whole month of just prayer, putting down the food, and just seeking the face of God, he said to me, you need to do a 4-week give back to our community. And when he said that to me, I was like, 4 weeks of give back? Didn't have none of the supplies. The only thing we had was several Pampers. Maybe less than 50. So I started the first give back. And when we started our first give back, when I saw the cars line up about 6 a.m., because we live at the center at this present time, I said, Katie, look out there. I said, boy, we're in trouble because we don't have that much supplies for what I see out there. So I started to pray. And I said, hey, listen, I got to go on Facebook. I have to go send out an appeal. And believe it or not, when I made that appeal, the community of Grand Bahama, what I saw was unbelievable. Folks that start dropping off Pampers, start dropping off baby supplies. And we were able to give out about 500 Pampers on that first day, baby food to the wider community. Again, we did it the second week. To give back to our community. We say, okay, we're going to do the grocery items. When I look in there, we had some of the grocery items in there. I had supplies for maybe 150. When I look again, 6 a.m. cars again. And so I made an appeal, and people start dropping the canned goods. Wow. People start calling me and say, hey, I love what you're doing, and start assisting. And we were able to get about 700 grocery items to the wider community in Grand Bahama.
To give that much out, it says clearly that there is still a great need on the island of Grand Bahama.
Yeah, Grand Bahama is still hurting. We haven't recovered from Hurricane Matthew. And here come the COVID-19. There's so many needs. When you hear the stories of an elderly lady, 72 years old, say, Dudley, I'm blind, but I don't know how I'm going to get something to eat.
Wow.
And when you drop off the food items to their home, and they literally saying, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to put food on my table. And when we rode into West End last week, 2 ladies in a wheelchair, because I didn't want to go in the homes, inside the homes, and they say, son, we can't come out.
Wow.
And I was like, and I said to Katie, I got to carry the food, I got to carry this inside, because they say, hey, we can't come out. And I had to carry the grocery item inside the home. And those kind of stories is heart-wrenching when you see a mother of 7 calling you and say, hey, I got my baby is 1 year old, we have no Pampers, there's no food inside the home. And so I continue to pray. But what I'm learning and watching, the outpouring of love here in Grand Bahama, a lot of people, what they saying is, hey, Dudley, we see what you're doing, and we're gonna assist in your effort of what you're doing here in Grand Bahama. So it means a lot.
And it's amazing to see that corporate Grand Bahama, you know, at this point that they're standing up, because they too are going through a very difficult time. And even residents, everyday residents who are probably giving you from the little that they have, that's commendable.
I was doing this now for the past 13 years here in Grand Bahama. This is the first time that I am seeing the community effort. Normally when I do events or helping the community, people stand on the sideline and say, hey, you go ahead and do it by yourself. There's countless persons dropping off chicken, going to Sawyer's, going to the meat place and just buying the grocery items and dropping it off the center. Then the third week, what was, I think, amazing, I said that I'm going to feed 1,000 families. When we got to 800, I said, Katie, there's still lines of cars out there.
Wow.
And we were able to feed 1,500 families a hot meal last week.
How were you able to pull this off, Joe? That's a lot of meals.
Yeah.
So it has to be you, but there has to also be a team behind you that's also assisting.
Yeah, we have a lot of volunteers, persons calling. We want to say a special thank you to Palm's Kitchen. She assists, Invaders for Christ Family, they assist, and there's so much other cooks in the background.
So they will cook and they will bring the food to you, and then you guys will get together and distribute. Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's how it works. And it takes a community effort. When I call them, they say, oh, no, Dudley calling again. But I say, hey, we got to feed these people. And when we saw just the demand, and people just said, thank you for a plate of food. One lady texted me and said, hey, Dudley, I came by myself, but I have 4 in my family, and we share that plate of food.
Wow.
When you hear those stories, it tells you that people are in need, and I got to continue this journey. And I had a phone call from the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the Grand Bahama Disaster Relief Foundation. They called me in, I spoke to Mr. Roll, and they said they had a meeting yesterday. So they're on board. They say they're going, whatever it takes to continue the effort that I'm doing, they're going to be behind me 100%.
And kudos to Mr. Ian Rule, because I realized that a lot of programs that you would put on, he's also right there beside you, or at least trying to assist in some way.
I met Mr. Rule in 2008, and when he heard the passion, and that's what he said, when I came in there, and I told him, you know, my desire on helping the community of Grand Bahama, he said, hey, listen, whatever it takes for us to do in the GBPA, we'll support him. Mr. Roll is more of he's part of my board. He's there to assist, guide us along the way. But it couldn't work without persons like them, Coca-Cola, Bahama, Jamaica, Farmer Camp, Focal. All those corporate companies, like I said, play a part of what I'm doing. But because the demand is so high, financially it's draining, and I need everybody on board. to continue this effort. Hopefully, I'm going to take this in 8 Mile Rock. That's my, I'll take it in Pinnis Point also, and I'm going to take it in High Rock. But my whole mission is to feed Grand Bahama. That is my dream. It always was my dream.
Wow.
Although I love helping young kids, I love doing what I do. But my whole dream was to feed Grand Bahama, because I can remember growing up, going to school, no lunch money, going to bed hungry. And I understand how that felt. So I will continue this effort. Whatever it takes to keep this drive going, I will continue.
Karen Hepburn says, God bless you and your organization, Mr. Sage. Shalom. Christine Lightborn Darville says, God bless your ministry. Mr. Sage, you're doing an awesome job. Jaden Old says, Mr. Sage, you are a true humanitarian. Your blessings will flow abundantly. And again, Karen Hepburn says, God is so awesome. He knows exactly what we have need of. Thank you, Lord, for your hand being extended to those in need. May God continue to bless all those that give liberally. We are blessed to be a blessing. And Christine Lightborn Darble says, only God. He always have a ram in the thicket. Your ministry will never suffer loss. Thank you on behalf of all Grand Bahamians.
And those texts I'm getting all day is a humbling experience when you're hearing grandmothers saying thank you. I play the food that I got from you. If it wasn't for Reach Out Youth Organization, we probably couldn't put it on our table. Wow. When you see, what is more humbling, when you see fathers, men 60 years old, say, son, I don't know I can feed my family. Wow. I need your help. When you're getting those calls, when you're hearing that from men, not a young man who's 19, but a young man, a man who's but 60 years old saying, I need your help. And to see when they leave, you can see the joy, and they say, hey, we finally get something to eat. And what I'm more happy of is no red tape. I don't need to know much about you. If you're hungry, you don't need to follow no form. But I really truly feel in this time where people are not working, they ain't gonna come there unless they really need it. In this time. So it's no screening pretty much. And even put themselves at risk, especially with this COVID-19 pandemic. If they don't need it, chances are they're not gonna just show up and come for food. Yeah, and when you see a lady who have cancer, one leg, she's calling me and saying, hey, I need something to eat, Dudley. Could you please deliver that to me? And those stories would have me continue to go on. I see the needs here on our island in Grand Bahama. And I'm only a humble servant who answered the call of God. Because to do this at this particular time, when you're taking your life at risk, it's COVID-19, it's a deadly disease, and to have a wife like mine, and I say, hey, honey, you gotta let's go. We gotta get up and help these people in Grand Bahama. But it also has to be a burden on you to take some of these stories on at night, knowing that there are people who really have nothing and they're depending on you for a hot meal. That has to be a great burden. What I really said is almost like when you're carrying a baby. I heard the story how mothers feel. That's how it feels. It's a heavy burden. I don't sleep at night. Every 3 o'clock I'm up in prayer. 3:30, 4 o'clock, I'm up in prayer, and what's so hard is if I can't help, that's the burden that I really have pretty much, when I can't help. I feel good when I know I can help someone put food on their table. But it's a heavy burden, and I thank God. I'm humble, like I said. I'm only a servant who answered the call. I know a lot of people saying where everybody else is, and that's why I ask myself, when I'm doing this right now, I understand the fear. So I just ask in the wider community of Grand Bahama, please don't criticize anybody who's not doing it, because it's a fear. The person is saying, hey, if I'm out there, I'm risking my life. Also, although they want to help, but a person is saying I'm out there risking my life. And what I've learned too, since I'm doing this, people are more afraid of, okay, if I start to do a giveaway, I won't have enough to give. Have you found yourself to be in those situations? Yeah, what happened to me because of my faith and God. I think that's what really carries.
So you always have enough.
Yeah, my faith in God.
Wow.
And God never fails me yet.
Wow.
Doing this give back to our community. And I heard all the times when they talk about the story when God fed the 5,000 with the 5 loaves and 2 fish. I think that's what I'm going to call.
You live that.
I live that right now. That's what I'm going to call what I'm doing. 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish.
Wow.
And that's really what's going on. When we look inside the center and look at the cars, there's no way in the world we'll be able to feed all those people. And that's just my faith in God. My faith has increased. I know I was a Christian before. I know I believe in God, but right now my faith has went to another level. Because what I'm saying is I call truly a miracle, Shashina, a miracle. Because to see that every day folks come in there, over 60, 70 persons coming every day for grocery items. And I'm still able to supply them.
Every day?
Every day, Shashina, 50 to 60 persons calling. Hey, Mr. Say, is anything there now? I need somebody come. Hey, Mr. Say, is any Pampers there? I don't have no Pampers for my child. Hey, Mr. Said, I need your help all day, every day since I started this Give Back to Our Community.
Lynn Clinton says, my Lord, a one-man social service in our Grand Bahama community, absolutely amazing. Blessings.
And that's what I wanted, honestly speaking. I just wanted to be a person, if someone in need, they could get help. I know social service is doing their work. I understand the Red Cross is doing their work. I understand Salvation Army is doing their work. But what I wanted to reach out youth organization to be an organization here in Grand Bahama, where if anyone has some needs, that we have funding in place, that I have grocery in place, that I have pampers and supplies in place. So when a person really and truly have needs, they don't have to turn them, I don't want to turn them away.
And I know that you've had a passion for young men in particular. We've witnessed over the past few weeks where a lot of young men have been hauled before the court, even while we're dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic we had shootings and robberies and so on and so forth. Are you still mentoring a lot of young men in the community?
Yes, I still am. It's sad to me for anyone to commit any crime during this time. In this country, people are trying to stay alive from the COVID-19. So to me, I call that senseless. I care about the young men, but anyone who pull a trigger during this time, I feel it's senseless right now. For this country, trying to recover, trying to stay safe, and guys out there still trying to kill each other. I think that's wrong. But the mess is still out there. The problem is what's going on in our country today. They don't value life, pretty much. And the people around them is just telling them, you're not going to be anything. And that's the biggest problem that you see. That's why crime continue to go up, because people are around them just feeding them negative. But that's why I always say I would always love to be a light to show them, hey, listen, there's something positive here. You could turn your life around. Person like me used to be on the other side. Look what God is doing. And that's what I think they need to hear more of. Because if they turn in, because what I'm saying today is, for a person who's doing negative, now doing positive, look how much impact that I'm making in our country.
And for those persons who may not know your story, just give us a little snippet of when you say you were on the wrong side of the law. What does that mean?
Yeah, growing up, I made bad choices. In my mind, I thought the only way you could survive in the early 80s is do crime, dealing drugs, being in gangs. I thought that was the only way. Because of those bad choices, my now wife, she could lose her life because someone broke inside my home, stabbed me 7 times. I have a son in Bimini. His name is Dudley Said. They put a gun to his head, and they said they're going to shoot him. And when I realized all of that, because of the bad choices that I made, I could have lost my whole family. And for that, and that's what changed my life around. Because I could have lost my life and cause others lose their life. And that's what turned my life around. And I said, Lord, if you save me, just give me one chance. If you save my life, I'll turn my life around. And today, my life has turned around.
How many years?
That's going now on 23 years. I was supposed to get married 9 days before it happened.
Wow.
And because I thought it was a prank. I thought the guys came in my house to say, hey, Dudley, you think we're getting married? I thought it was a prank. And I got stabbed almost to my heart, 1 inch, jugular vein, 1 inch. And I got shot in my back, 1 inch away from me being paralyzed. And so when all my boys came and said, hey, Dudley, let's get these guys who try to kill you. And I look at all of them, I say, fellas, hey, I got a second chance in life, and I was happy. And that's why I always tell the story on revenge. I had to forgive. And because I forgave those guys, I'm at peace with what happened. I think all that happened today, and that's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing here in Grand Bahama.
I think when you told the story to me before, you said even today you still see some of those guys, eh?
Yeah, I still see them, and I forgive them. And I think that's the biggest thing. You have to forgive. I let that go. Only thing I said to myself, why should I waste time on that? And God gave me a second chance. So what you see here is a living example of forgiveness. And a lot of people saying, I wonder why he's so passionate. I almost died. I almost died. And that's why I'm so passionate in what I do. And that's why anything I could do to save a young man or anybody, I will continue my work here in Grand Bahama. I love my work. I love helping people. And that's why a lot of people see the passion that I have on helping my community.
And I'm advised by my producer, Natalie, that you have something special planned for essential workers and the elderly?
Yeah. There's no way I give back to the community that we could forget the essential workers. They are on the front line. This Thursday, we'll be feeding, we did a count yesterday. It went up to 1,000.
Wow.
We'll be feeding all the policemen here on the island, all the nurses, all the grocery stores,
That's awesome.
Sawyers, Cartwright, BWA, all those stores, we be giving back to them. And all the gas attendants. And the reason why we did that, because they are in the front line. There's a lot of times, a lot of people don't remember them. So we decided, when we first did it, we was going to only do all the old folks home, but we're going to do all old folks here in Grand Bahama, and all the essential workers. That's customs, that's immigration. We'll be assisting all of them here. And so we went up to 1,000, but we are prepared. All our cooks are ready. And I think they deserve it. They are in the front line every day, helping our country cope with the COVID-19. So we had to help them out. So it's a special day for us. I think feeding them is going to be a good thing, because they're working on. We're going to feed ZNS, we're going to feed Freeport Mules, we're going to feed Dove, all the radio stations.
Amazing.
Yes. So it's a heavy.
That's a big burden.
Big burden. It's up to 1,000 already. The police alone is 100. What we do is, what we want to do is touch everybody.
And if people want to sow into your ministry, how do they reach out to you?
Yeah, they call me on 727-1229, or at the center is 352-1206. But a lot of people, and I try to stay away from that so much, if they could buy me the grocery at this particular time.
We don't usually have that.
Yeah, at this particular time.
The grocery is good enough.
Yeah, the grocery.
So if you're going to the food store and you're picking up a can of corn or 2 cans of corn for your household, you're saying, pick up 1 corn, a can of corn for us.
Grocery, chicken, if they could buy those stuff.
And just drop it off at the center.
Because what happened is, Shashina, and a lot of people are not working.
Right.
So financially, if they want to contribute, they can. But to me, if I could get the center full of groceries, full of meat, full of supplies, that goes a long way to me. Because what'll happen, somebody will get it. I know a lot of times, the first thing that someone should say is, okay, here's my bank account. But to me right now, Shashina, for what I'm seeing, the hungry people in Grand Bahama, bring me some groceries.
Wow, amazing. Gloria Darvel says, Mr. Said, you are a vessel of honor, glorifying God in works and deeds. You are absolutely phenomenal, sir. May the good Lord continue to bountifully bless your life and ministry with favor, blessings. Caitlin Thompson says that this man is so awesome. Thank God for using him.
Well, I've been getting that all the time. It's humbling. It's a humbling experience, Shashina. And what I'm getting is a lot of thank you. Thank you so much. I'm only a vessel because, like I said, God knows what he's doing. And a lot of people are a lot of fear, Shashina. A lot of people are a lot of fear of COVID-19.
Yeah.
And when people see me in the front line doing this, I had to pray because I was scared. I was scared.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I was afraid. But you know what I said, God? If I'm going to die for you, I'll die for you. And that's what I said to myself, you know, no matter what it takes, I'm going to go on the front line. I'm not going to stay home, and these people need help.
And you also have plans for the elderly, correct?
Yes. The elderly persons, what we're going to do is drop off the meals to them. Our hope and our dream going forward, a person 72 years old, I created a database from this Give Back to our community. And our second phase from here is we go into homes. We're going to have a schedule. Every Monday I'll be going into West End. Every Tuesday we're going to Hunters, Williamstown, then we end up in High Rock. But what we're going to do is we're going to persons who can't move. A lot of the Give Back to our community were persons who have vehicles, but those persons who are afraid and can't come out their homes, that's our next venture. But I want to say kudos to the Grand Bahama Disaster Relief Foundation. They saw the vision. They understand what I'm doing, and they say they're going to back me.
Oh, wow.
And that was
That's amazing.
That was like a burden lifted, because my donors are going to get tired of me because I call them 3A.
So is this the plan to continue this throughout this pandemic, or in the interim? I mean, what is the plan?
This is a dream of mine to feed.
So this isn't really only about COVID-19.
No, not COVID-19.
This is something that you plan to continue.
Always was a dream of mine to feed Grand Bahama, because I understand when they, it's difficult sometimes when you go to social service, they're doing their job. It's difficult when you go to NIB, they're doing their job. But I want to be a place where when you say you're hungry and you're ready for something to eat, here's your grocery item. Here's your chicken. Here's the meal. Go put some a meal on your table.
Right.
So this is something ongoing. I'm so happy that God allowed this to really happen. I seen a dream come true to feed Grand Bahama.
Terrence Seymour says, good evening, Bahamas, watching from Pennsylvania. Hello, Terrence, and thank you for tuning in. Dudley, we want to say thank you so much for being here today and sharing all it is that you're doing for our community. We couldn't do it without persons like you. And as much of the persons would have said, we pray that God continues to bless you and your ministry.
Thank you very much. What I want to say to everyone, to Grand Bahama, I love you. I never see this much love that I'm seeing. People are giving what they have to give to someone who don't. So I just want to say, continue to pray. I am with you, Grand Bahama. I will not stop. I will continue to feed my island. I love my community. So I just try to thank you to everyone who've been a part.
Thank you. And that is our show for today. Extended show, I may add. We thank you for joining us. Remember to wash your hands properly for 20 seconds or more. Use hand sanitizers. Stay away from large gatherings, social distancing, and stay at home. We will see you again tomorrow. Stay safe, Bahamas. I'm Shashina Roll-Farquharson. Thank you all for tuning in.
Hungry, you fed me. Naked, you clothed me. They will know us by our love.
Can't imagine how it felt as you lay there, through the dark, through the heat, through the cold, with with your friend by your side, held his hand and watched him die, and you cried as you prayed for his soul.
I can't imagine how it felt as you stood there through the winds that would just not go.